All right, I'm gonna take a few moments to let everyone enter in before I give announcements. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the March Star webinar. My name is Janae Owens. I'm an education and training specialist here at the ICN. Today, we will play a playback webinar of the Recognizing the Dedication and Strength of Child Nutrition Heroes. All attendees will be muted today. With this being a recording, playback recording, today's Q&A will look a little different. So if you have a question regarding the speaker's presentations, please send those questions to the ICN Help Desk email, which is helpdesk@theicn.org. And we will put that in the chat for everyone. Again, if you have any questions, please send those to the Help Desk email because this is a playback of a already recorded webinar. However, if you are registering for this webinar for the first time, you will receive a certificate within 24 hours sent to your email, including an evaluation survey. All right, I'll go ahead and get started.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to give a few seconds to allow everyone to come into the webinar. It takes a few moments to let everyone into Zoom. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Tom Hunter Pratt. I'm the multimedia specialist for ICN. I'm going to be helping facilitate today's webinar. During today's webinar, you all are in listen-only mode. And take note that after each presentation from each panelist, we'll be having a Q&A session. So be sure to find the Q&A button on your Zoom control panel. Click that and enter any questions you have, and we'll be sure to get to those as best we can. At the end of today's webinar, you'll receive a pop-up that's asking you to complete a survey. If you would, go ahead and give us your feedback. We value your feedback. And you'll also receive a follow-up email within 24 hours of today's webinar. So you'll get an email that contains a recording link. You'll also get the link to the same survey you'll see at the end of this webinar. So if you happen to miss it, you can answer that survey there. We'll also send out certificates within 24 hours of the conclusion of this webinar. So be watching your email for those as well. Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm going to turn the presentation over to Janae.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the November School Nutrition Star webinar on recognizing the dedication and strength of school nutrition heroes. I'm Janae Owens, an education and training specialist with the Institute of Child Nutrition, and I will be moderating today's webinar. Just to reiterate some things that Tom Hunter has shared with us for those who are just coming on, during today's webinar, all attendees will be muted. There will be time for questions following each speaker's presentation. And if you have a question, please type it into the Q&A box on your screen. We will try to get to as many questions as possible, but due to our time constraints, every question may not get answered during the webinar. And for individuals who have registered for the webinar, you will receive an email at the conclusion of the webinar. The email will contain the webinar recording link and a link to the evaluation survey. Please complete the evaluation survey as ICN appreciates your feedback, and a certificate will be sent to you within 24 hours. ICN collaborates with USEA to host monthly School Nutrition Star webinars to provide attendees with training, real-life strategies of program implementation, and best practices for use in action plans and/or goals. Training topics, free resources, and educational materials are also highlighted to assist school nutrition professionals with navigating through the enhanced responsibilities of school nutrition operations. The Institute has created a website for all these materials and resources specifically related to the webinars, and you can find this information at theicn.org/star. The USDA Professional Standards Code is listed here. So the topics covered in today's webinar fall under the key area, operations and administration, and meet the standards code 2000 and 3000. Joining us on today's webinar are the following panelists. First, we have Moss Crutchfield in the food service. He is the food service director for Epping Schools in Southeast New Hampshire and is a certified executive chef and school nutrition specialist with nearly 20 years of experience in restaurants and 10 years in child nutrition. Moss relishes every opportunity to meld culinary creativity with the business of support services in ways that engage students, enhance excitement, and enrich learning. He's excited to share strategies for circumventing their current supply chain issues during these difficult times. We also have Aaron Smith, who is the Director of Nutrition Services for the Seattle Public Schools. He holds a marketing degree from Illinois State University and attended Lee Cordon Blue. Early in his career, he worked for Google Affiliate Marketing Department before serving as a community outreach specialist for AmeriCorps. His first position in school food was as district chef for Rockford Public Schools, and he then served as assistant director for Hamilton County, Tennessee, where he was responsible for all operations, which included strategic planning, department compliance for state and federal, and increasing efficiency within the department. He is passionate about school nutrition because he helps expose students to nutritious meals and to different cultures through food. He believes that school lunches can be used as another form of education for students. We also have Emmy Collins joining us from Seattle Public Schools as well. She is the executive chef for SPS. She oversees the central kitchen production, which prepares about 15,000 meals a day for students, as well as oversees the food production for the catering and deli department. Emmy received her AAS in Culinary Arts from Seattle Culinary Academy and was honored as the outstanding culinarian of her graduating class. She launched her private chef and catering business shortly after graduating from culinary school. Emmy's an active member of Les Dames d'Escoffier, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and Women's Chefs and Restaurateurs. She has appeared on Food Network, New Day Northwest, Q13 Fox News, and Global International Television, and more. Her work has been featured on the Seattle Times, Eater, The Kitchen, the New York Times, and more. She's also married and is a mother of 3 amazing children. So thank you so much for our panelists for joining us today. And the learning objective for this webinar will be to recall the strategies utilized by school districts throughout the nation to address challenges to continue operations of child nutrition programs. Now, before I turn it over to our panelists, on behalf of the entire ICN team, I would like to acknowledge and highlight some school nutrition heroes across the nation. Thank you so much for submitting your success stories and staff highlights. ICN is always looking to shine the spotlight on all of you. I will take the next several minutes to share with you some highlights of those who submitted their stories and staff names. So first we have a highlight for Ms. Pauline Gorey. Kathy submitted this highlight and she said that Pauline, she has been working in school cafeteria for the last 3 years. Pauline works every day with making food and interacting with the kids on a daily basis and helping them with eating right. So Pauline, thank you so much for submitting this highlight, and thank you so much, Kathy, for all your hard work. Next, we have a highlight from the Jefferson County Public Schools out of Louisville, Kentucky. Mary submitted a highlight for Tracy Green. She said that Tracy Green is a hard worker and has always made sure the students come first and have a healthy lunch with a pleasant attitude. Miss Tracy is always on the job, working hard every day. So thank you so much, Tracy. We have a thank you for Miss Linda Mickles from Mary Beth, and they work at the Lakejoy Primary School in Warner Robins, Georgia. Thank you so much for that submission, Mary Beth. We have a spotlight for Jennifer Sladen, who has been in school nutrition for 3 years. She works very hard to make sure kids are fed every day. We have been short one employee this year, says Misty, and she steps up, meaning Jennifer steps up to the plate and helps whenever and wherever the help is needed. Thank you, Jennifer. It doesn't go unnoticed. They are out of Anderson Shiro Elementary, out of Anderson, Texas. So thank you so much, Misty, for that submission. We have another one here. I would like to highlight Helen Robinson, Kayla Grandnigo, Cheryl, and herself, which is Danielle Hicks. Thank you for the submission, for the hard work, long hours, and the thousands of meals prepared and given out to the kids of St. Landry Parish during the beginning of the pandemic and through multiple feeding programs. And they are out of St. Landry Parish School Board in Louisiana. Thank you so much. We have a spotlight here, some more pictures that she submitted. And she also said it is because of our effortless work and huge hearts, along with Mrs. Robinson, our supervisor, that kids were still able to get a hot meal for months after the start of the pandemic. She commend all of these ladies for that and could not have worked with a better crew. Thank you, Danielle. All right, we have another one here out of Martinsville City Public Schools. We are a small district of 5 schools, and our managers and staff have gone above and beyond to ensure that our students have meals. Even during the pandemic, they were there each day with us. I know all other schools did the same, and we salute them as well. We all work together as we face this pandemic and continue to work as a team because it's about the students. We have a great team, quote unquote family, and that is why I am highlighting the team. So Martinsville City Public Schools, thank you so much for all of your hard work and dedication. All right, we have another one here out of West Virginia. Ms. Lori Lanier, Program Coordinator. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. And we have a quote that says, whatever is needed, whether they're short staff, to hand out meal boxes, prepare lunch, budget oversight, PK monitors, a smile when the days are rough, Lori is there. I'm so proud of her. We are blessed to have her here. Okay, another one out of Eureka City Schools. This one is a sort of a success story. So it says, I am the food service director for Eureka City Schools. We have a food service staff of 30 plus, 8 bus drivers and some helpers. Our district has 3,700 to 3,800 students prior to the pandemic. We were serving 4,000 meals a day prior to shutdown. Our food service department shut down overnight in March 2020 due to the pandemic. Our meal counts plummeted and we were worried about the kids at home not eating. We added home delivery and weekly meal pickups from our central kitchen. We did the best we could to provide meals for families and keep ourselves safe. More and more families would show up at the bus stops until we approached around 50% of normal participation. The kids were so excited to see their bus drivers, and I think the bus drivers had a great time too. All of us were happy to be working, so we did not have time to really think about what was actually occurring. Through the freezing cold rain and wind, absenteeism was at its lowest ever. Staff were dedicated to feeding the kids, and we were very successful with no COVID-19 outbreaks. So this is a great success story. She also said we successfully completed one of our largest in-person summer school programs. So in August, while experiencing the highest case numbers in the community since the pandemic, it clearly showed how well our district's COVID-19 protocols were followed. So thank you so much for that success story and pictures. And I think there are some more on the next page. Look at that. Thank you so much for submitting that success story in your images. These are awesome. All right, we have another one out of Stockton, California for Miss Veronica. Veronica is my manager, but also my friend. She has worked at the district for over 20 years. She started as a food service worker as a single mom of 3 kids. She struggled to fit and work and looking after her children, but managed to do it and be promoted to assist. and then manager. We have a small kitchen staff, but as Veronica is also involved in the union as treasurer of the local chapter, we have a revolving door of other employees. She knows who wants to rant and who has genuine complaints. She is empathetic to everyone. She has boundless time and energy for others. What I love about my manager is that she knows everyone has a story. She's not quick to judge. She's warm and friendly. We refer to her as Tickle Me Elmo. That is so funny. She always makes us laugh, feeding kids in her passion, but she is strict on eating fruits and vegetables and trying new things. She deserves every award. I know our district does not realize the treasure they have. Thank you so much for that submission for Ms. Veronica. Thank you for all of your hard work. This is a funny picture out of Osage, Iowa. I hope I said that correctly. Brenda Kramer, head cook, high school, middle school, Karen Hikeston. Thank you all so much. Karen is a frontline cook. So thank you so much for this submission, and thank you to Brenda and Karen. All right, we have another one out of Noonan, Georgia. April Rubino and Smith, Dolores, Teresa, and James Montgomery, best cafe staff in Coweta County. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. Here's some more pictures as well. All right, out of Emporia, Virginia, I would like to recognize my entire staff. We are a district of 4 schools with around 2,100 students and about 35 food service employees. All right, and there's a message for the Emporia, Virginia, the school, Greensville County Public Schools. It says, not heroes wear capes, and they all have been true heroes over the last year and a half. Every day they suit up and come in and save the day. They have worked tirelessly to provide meals for students during the pandemic. Through all of the challenges, changes, chaos, product and shortages, late deliveries, no deliveries and staff issues, they never failed in serving our students healthy, nutritious meals. I appreciate each and every one of them, and I want them to know that the hard work and dedication they give to this department does not go unnoticed. So Greensville County Public Schools, thank you so much for all of your hard work and dedication. Out of Lacey Townsend School District, we have a staff highlight. Crystal DeCaro, Food Service and Nutrition Director, always goes above and beyond to make sure students are excited about nutrition and fueling their body with a variety of foods that expand both minds and palates. She is always serving up smiles, and she knows appreciation to her hardworking food service staff with punny goodies through the school year. So thank you so much, Crystal, for all of your dedication and hard work. Okay, and I believe this is our last one, but out of Roanoke City Schools, Tina submitted a story. She said, our fabulous CNP staff have worked tirelessly through the COVID pandemic to deliver breakfast, lunches, and suppers to our students. She also said, our ladies have decorated the lunchroom and serving area to create an inviting space for students. They have adapted to many changes in scheduling and procedures without smiles and great attitudes. I think she meant with smiles and great attitudes. They have, when the food trucks haven't arrived, they have quickly modified menus to fit the supplies they had in stock. They have prepared delicious meals for our students and served them with smiles. To all school nutrition heroes across the nation, ICN gives you a big thank you for your hard work and dedication. Thank you so much for submitting those success stories. This is really great. ICN loves to highlight you all. And also, we will be extending an opportunity to submit your success stories and staff names. So for our January 2020 STAR webinar, we will be extending that to highlight you guys. So if you want to submit your success story or if you want to submit staff names, please do so. And if you're interested, please stay tuned. ICN will keep you up to date on how to submit that either on our website, via social media sites, and newsletters in the weeks to come. So now I will turn the presentation over to Moss.
share that, unmute that. Hi, everybody. Okay. It's kind of neat that you started off that way, because I think that's the first line of defense for something like what we've been dealing with is your staff. Like, first and foremost, they're going to be your best tool in the box. So as long as they feel heard and appreciated, I think you're 90% of the way there. But let's talk about all the rest. So as mentioned, I've been in K-12 for a little over a decade. I've provided culinary training, menu planning, and product development for districts of several sizes, as well as some of our producers like JTM, Land O'Lakes, General Mills, Riches. In this, I try to keep all the concepts scalable so they're effective across multiple platforms. And if it's food service, I've probably been there. I've probably done it. So that's a little bit about me. Let's get started. So we only got about 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to keep this somewhat general. Specific recipes are sometimes only just a quick Google away. So let's talk about method and thoughtfulness, sort of that 30,000 foot view. Menu planning is an art, but at the end of the day, it's just that. It's just a plan. So the issue at hand is when we can't meet those plans due to breaks in supply or issues with availability. So the kitchen needs to be confident, adaptable, and flexible. I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. It's okay to change your menu. We always have warnings, little sort of disclaimers on our printed menu saying we might make those changes. So give yourself that gift of serving outside the normal menu. Meal patterns define our menus. So go ahead and teach to the test. Create meals that specifically are able to meet those meal patterns any way they can. Simple enough to say, but it's difficult to do. The best meals we serve can be broken down into the 4 parts I'm showing here. So almost all of them have protein, base, usually a grain, but sometimes a vegetable, a sauce, and then a garnish, which I think is often overlooked. Any classic American meal is going to be meat, gravy, and potatoes. So that's the first trick. Sauce is the thing that you can use to change the character of virtually any dish just by changing your sauce. So you take these 4 parts, mix and match, find something that fits, and then just give it a new name, give it a funky name, something fun, that will stick, and it's just that easy. Thanksgiving is just around the corner. So it fits this pattern. We served our holiday meal today, which is probably one of my favorite things to do in K-12. You can see I've got the meat, the base, the sauce, and the garnish. Many of us use a version of the KFC bowl, and it's always the top seller. It fits this pattern too. You take this 4-part theme and just run with it. Every culture has a protein, starch, sauce fascination, and then everything else is negotiable. So think ramen, enchiladas, quinoa bowls. They all fit this pattern of meat, gravy, and potato. Now, a quick note about side dishes, because they're an important part of our meal pattern, the thing that we have to do for the reimbursables. So the vegetable and the grain side, that offer versus serve, will often have to match the entree. Fruit, however, can always be its own thing. So if you style it like a dessert, instant acceptance. I think a lot of us already do this, but it's definitely worth saying out loud. Off to the right, you can see I've also made a note that fruit makes an excellent sauce base, and I put a lot of my commodity values into fruit. A good chunk of my USDA commodity is going to come in as fruit, usually canned and IQF frozen, just so I have an adaptability. But a classic French sauce, there's a thing called gastrique, which is essentially a type of sweet and sour sauce, cherries, berries, that kind of stuff. It's used for everything from poultry to game. So that sort of sweet and sour, fruit forward sauce is extremely kid friendly. Another thing that's on trend is a blueberry barbecue sauce. So check those out. They're both things that are relatively quick and easy to make, take very few ingredients, and they're adaptable. The picture in the lower right was the very first day of school. We didn't have access. We were shorted on our orange chicken. So this is blended peaches with yellow curry, a couple other spices, hit it with a little green onion for color, and it was phenomenal. The kids just went absolutely nuts on it. Now the name in the, hold on, I'm sorry. So the name and the concept of the dish is actually the least important part, as any good dish will become known in itself for being great. The name is just a marketing tool. You can call the dish anything you want, and the students will adapt. We know from experience that students, generally the younger ones especially, but they need to see things a couple times anyway before they accept it, unless it's something immediately visually familiar. But the name is something you can just kind of throw on there, and that defines what you're putting out there as its own thing. So you can be descriptive or just plain silly. If it's fun to say, it's easier and more memorable to order. So I have made some absolutely ludicrous names in my time to put on the menus, and they always stick. So let's take pasta with meat sauce. There we go. So I Googled pasta and meat sauce, and this is what came up. Now, if you take the same idea, my mother used to make a thing called goulash. I used to make beefaroni. When I moved here to New Hampshire, it was a bit of a shock, but I recently discovered they call it American chop suey. It's all the same dish. It's all the same thing. It's macaroni, beef, tomato sauce. What matters most is that you're making sort of an emotional connection. So when I put out what I called beefaroni, the students here immediately just said, oh, I'll take the chop suey. They were all about it, even though I was sort of freestyling this thing because I had a lot of beef. So make it playful, give it a lot of flavor and appearance, and just take the risk. Go all in with this new concept. Flavor and appearance do count though. So our customers are often standing literally right in front of us, and everyone eats with their eyes. So you want to make sure that they're going to come back for more. Once you've applied a name, make sure that you keep to that name. Consistency is a very big tenet in food service. Your product has to be consistent. So once you've created an identity of a thing, given it a name, stick with it. Changing the name might mean that you have to change the dish, if only to manage your customers' expectations. So don't try to sell something that's close to what you wanted. Just go ahead and give it a new name, make it something entirely new and remarkable instead. Some cuisines really lend themselves to being easily adapted, like Tex-Mex, Italian, and Asian. So let's talk about those. So adaptable genres are easy, where you can just make up something on the spot and give it a funky name. So Tex-Mex is famously made up of only 5 or 6 ingredients. There's something I call the Taco Bell lesson, the Taco Bell paradigm, where they have a menu of about 150 items and only 6 ingredients. And it's kind of an inside joke with Latin food that it's all meat, beans, potato, or cheese, tomato sauce, that sort of thing. Another little benefit of Taco Bell is they have these wildly low food costs, something that we all covet. Now Italian is the same way. Their ingredient base, though, is a little different. It's tomatoes, cheese, pasta, herbs, oftentimes beef, those sorts of things. But it's classic comfort food. It makes your whole kitchen smell great long before they even get to it. Those are really popular things. Now, Asian kind of borrows very easily from those other 2 ingredients. Spaghetti being like a Chinese invention long before it was Italian, for instance. So it's easy to prepare Asian from a lot of the same bases. Plus, it has the benefit that it's often very allergen friendly. Extremely easy to make a gluten and dairy free item in an Asian format. So these 3 generally form a good chunk of my menus. They'll be my wheelhouse, things that I can put out there that the kids will generally take rather quickly without needing a lot of experience with it beforehand. I also recommend what I call flavor bombs. Now the Miner's bases are heavily salted, so it doesn't take a whole lot of them, but always look for some way that you can throw something in there to sort of give it that little kick. So in Latin, there's a lot of raccaito and sofrito and those sorts of things. Italian, they have pesto and roasted garlic and olive oil. Simple enough. Like, just find ways to get these concentrated flavors that you can quickly add just a little bit into your dishes and make them pop. So brown rice, for instance, is extremely boring, but Spanish or Creole dirty rice is awesome, and the kids go for it. So let's talk about sort of an application of these sorts of things. So here's a whole week of chicken concepts. No one in their right mind would do a whole week of chicken, but say that's all you got, who knows? This is an entire sort of week's menu based on chicken with the base, the sauce, and the garnish. These are all items that I have done. So you can kind of mix and match, and you can see where the base and the sauce and the garnish change a little bit just to sell that chicken. Pot pie, Alfredo, that KFC bowl that we mentioned. There are probably all dishes that you have on your menus in one form or another. But let's say that you can't get chicken, all you have is beef. So we can take that exact same pattern, and by applying beef instead of chicken and maybe one or two things. So everything in red here would be just that one little twist to turn it into a brand new product. So instead of biscuit pot pie, because beef pot pie might be a little strange for some, you can change your vegetable to mashed potato and make that sort of a focus, and then you've got a shepherd's pie. The KFC bowl, I call that a homesteader. So that's like another like crazy idea, crazy name that's just silly and out of left field, but it becomes this meat and potatoes and gravy sort of concept that they will get excited about. Many of these ingredients, because they exist in other recipes, it's very easy to use them here. You have a stocked supply. So the more you use an ingredient, the better. That's called cross utilization. That's another trick that I often recommend. A lot of people don't make enough use of. So if you have one ingredient that you're only using 1 or 2 times, it's underutilized. Go ahead and try to increase its cross utilization and use it more often. Moving from woe to wow might mean tweaking only one ingredient and then just give it a funky name. Most of these ingredients you'll know too, I tried to keep them as commodity allocations. You've got your cheese, the beef itself, the mashed potato, the rice, those sorts of things we would get in bulk anyway from USDA. So to talk about cross utilization, that makes it easier to find the ingredients. Either they're USDA commodity, or they're heavily used in the commercial sector, or they're basic enough that these specialized, there's no such thing as a specialized ingredient. They're basic enough that they're very easily to get through your distributor, sometimes even locally. So this photo is my Taco Bell lesson fully realized. We had a brand new food truck in the last district I worked in, and I needed a recipe, or I needed a menu that would work with a very small ingredient base. The truck wouldn't hold a whole lot, so I needed just a small amount of good ingredients that the students could mix and match. What we did here is we assembled a few ideas to kind of get them started, and then did a photo shoot so that we could visually menu it, have a digital menu board. So we put these together. All the ingredients you see on the left were on the truck and available. We just put them together in different combinations. And this simple list of ingredients was able to create hundreds of unique dishes. 20 of these ingredients shown here were enough to build several months worth of weekly specials. Now, naming is where I kind of went a little crazy and had a lot of fun with it. If you've got a few hundred dishes, you're going to get a little zany. The POPO, which is the first one that's mentioned, it's just Spanish for what a chicken says, cheap, cheap. And since it was Latin chicken and rice, I just ran with it, and it turned into one of our best-selling dishes in no small part because the students like to come up and just say, pio pio, I'll have the pio pio. I like to say that. All right, so let's talk about preventing outs before they even happen. There's a lot of attention spent on sort of being reactionary. Proactive is good too. So for the month of October, these on the far right there, that's a picture of a local grower I used for apples. October was farm to school month. Not only were they easy to get, she actually brought them to me. They were about 10% less per case on cost. They were local, fresh picked, and they showed a commitment to our community, which the students really appreciated. It did, without even lifting a finger, elevated the whole farm to school month and sort of took fruit off of my worry list for a few weeks, which is always nice. Now, you don't need a farm to school program to reach out to a local vendor, but it does help. Just avoid the K-12 landmines is what I would recommend. Kellogg and General Mills lately, we've been having a lot of trouble getting those. So look for alternatives, usually smaller companies like Dick and Jane or Safe and Fair. There's recipes out there where you can even make your own nut and fruit bars from oats and things like that. Don't buy bag mac and cheese. If you've already got pasta, you've already got cheese sauce because you're doing nachos or that sort of thing, go ahead and throw them together. It's just a 2-item recipe, pasta, cheese sauce. So if you're relying on somebody to hand you mac and cheese, you're going to get shorted you're less likely to get shorted if you already have that in other areas. Maybe spend a little more money on your restaurant buffet items, go into the kind of the commercial area. Pot roast is something I've had a lot of success with. It's a little more expensive, but no other K-12 operators are using that product. So I haven't really been shorted on that a whole lot. I can't do it a whole lot because that's got an extra cost, but it does help when I don't have to worry about that one thing. Also consider your distributor. Larger ones like Cisco can be full of great resources. They have a lot of non-K-12 to pull from, like the pot roast, and the smaller ones might appreciate you having fewer SKUs. Larger districts might be able to bring in pallets to a central warehouse, but smaller districts might need to cross-utilize more. At the bottom there, this photo is a buffet type item. It's a fire roasted chicken thigh, and I've never been shorted on it. The kids absolutely love it. I sell it as a sort of a Plan B barbecue chicken. Next. There we go. Now, making most of your ingredients is also good kitchen management, and this goes to cross utilization. So bread dough is a perfect example of not accepting dedicated single use from anything in the kitchen. Good bread dough can be used to make sandwiches, pizza, rolls, knots, even breakfasts. I've used it to make cinnamon rolls in a pinch. Making your own proof and bake pizzas also allows you to customize and control the consistency, quality, and variety a lot better. Keep in mind that sudden menu changes, which this is all about, of course, they're frustrating not only for parents, but students and faculty as well. Nobody likes surprises. As unavoidable as they sometimes are. Check out change management, because that for me has been a huge thing. Once I realized that I had to think in those terms, it made it a lot easier to market and communicate to my customers, including faculty and staff, to get in front of those changes and make sure those adaptions aren't rejected before they even get to it, before they even try it. This is something I'm still working on myself. This is a tough one. So 5 points to recap. The first is build menu items and meals from components that you can easily mix and match. Be willing to look silly and even fail. You learn a lot more from your mistakes than you do from your successes. They become successes. Recognize that change is hard. You're going to need all of your stakeholders and their engagement. So if everyone owns a piece of that success, you're going to be a lot stronger for it. 4, fake it till you make it. I always love pointing out that Caesar salad is just a collection of random ingredients thrown together 100 years ago after a chef nearly ran out of food. Caesar salad was born of absolute necessity. What sold it was tableside preparation, and he put his own name on it, Caesar Cardini. So Caesar salad was just whatever he had in his larder at the time, and he threw it together and did it with enough confidence that now it's probably one of the best salads out there. Everybody, I'm sure, has some sort of Caesar salad. So just work smarter, not harder. Build your networks, more creative sourcing and more creative usage. And last but not least, this is my network. This is the team at Epping, New Hampshire. You might think you have the best crew in the business, but I'm sorry, you would be wrong. At this point, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Looks like we have a few, huh?
Yeah, hey Moss, we have time for about 1 or 2 live questions, and then we will move on to the next panelist.
Okay, I'll grab a couple of these. Sharing sauce recipes. Yeah, absolutely. I oftentimes find that they're very easy to just Google and then mix and match them into whatever you need them to be. I don't always count them as a fruit item because that 1/8 of a cup can be very difficult to reach sometimes. But if I can get that 2 tablespoons on the plate, yeah, you can bet your butt I'm gonna count it. Hamburger helper, yeah, like that one. The PowerPoint slides get shared, right? Yeah. Somebody mentioned African and Indian foods. I like this. So yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I'm excited about doing is a palak paneer You can take plain yogurt, stick it in cheesecloth for a day, and it makes a type of cottage cheese. It makes a type of soft, semi-firm protein, because we can count yogurt. Then you just put it into spices and spinach and cook it down. There's a million recipes for it on the web, and it's easy to find. That is on my short list. I would love to start throwing some Indian cuisine around. So that's a perfect example of sort of reaching outside of your comfort zone, using ingredients that you've already got, probably in great quantities, and then make it your own. Go with it. So, okay. I think now we'll hand it over to Aaron Smith.
Hey, thank you, Moss. Sorry, I had a little bit of trouble unmuting myself. But hey, everyone, Aaron Smith, Director of Culinary Services for Seattle Public Schools, and Emmy Collins. Emmy Collins is joining me today. She is the Executive Chef for Culinary Services for Seattle Public Schools. And today we're going to be presenting on how we've been operating during the pandemic. The vision for Seattle Public Schools Culinary Services is that every student will receive high quality, fresh ingredients and scratch-made meals with a focus on exceptional customer service, inclusive and authentic community and student engagement. We have 118 sites. We distribute 30,000 meals a day, and part just like a lot of districts. And on this phone call, on this in this meeting, we have about 25% of our positions are currently vacant. Partnerships plays a big role in what we do here in Seattle. We have partnerships with big organizations like Amazon, community organizations, parent groups like Mothers of Somali, student groups like Feast. We partner with City of Seattle, Fair Start, even community organizations like CISC. And this current school year, we are looking to increase our partnerships. Every year we look to add 5 to 10 more community student groups and community partners. And you might say, why would we do that this year with all the obstacles we have as a school district, as a food service program? Why are we looking to increase our community partners? Because the feedback that we get from our community partners is really the blueprint for how we succeed as a program. The partnerships help us guides us in the right directions for the best way to support students. And this feedback gives us the data that we need to be able to pivot at a moment's notice right now, especially during the pandemic, because anything can happen at any given time. Our partnerships also helped us really support the students that needed it the most. Our partnership with Amazon gave us the ability to provide thousands of meals to students directly to their homes for the past 21 months. And we are continuing delivering directly to students' homes with this partnership for students that's chosen to stay at home and learn virtually. And this was possible because a parent from one of the community groups we work with is an employee at Amazon, and she spoke to someone at Amazon, which created that conversation for us to create this partnership that we plan on continuing to use for a very long time. We also had a lot of parents who helped out and volunteered during the pandemic, helped deliver meals, distribute meals at shelters, helped us identify students who wasn't able to make it to meal sites. And so that's just comes from the importance of building these community relationships. And the engagement piece when it comes to with students, it really makes them feel like their voices are heard. And even more important now than ever, it helps create a welcome and safe environment for these students. All of us, especially kids, has experienced a lot over these past few months, and we are the largest support system in the state of Washington, and we want to make sure every student feels welcome and feel that comfort when they receive a meal or when they're in the cafeteria. And that's how we just become really part of the community, because each school is its own community. And by building these relationships leads to positive media attention, helps us change the perception of school food, and overall just highlight the importance of meals. And one thing that we really focus on is making sure that we represent as many cultures as possible through our food program and try to find ways to educate families and students about the different cultures through food. And so now Amy Collins is going to speak about some of the changes we made to our food operations during this time.
Yeah, so when the pandemic hit, we went from having over 100 meal sites that we regularly do have in the regular school year to school shutting down and having only 40 meal sites where we were serving meals to students in the community. So at that time, we took that opportunity to really dive into the concept of our mission, which is to provide more, fresh, scratch-made items, more culturally relevant food. So we took that time that like most of our school sites had shut down to only 40 sites to really explore, do a lot of menu development, work with our staff, and introduce the community and students to new culturally relevant dishes. So coming into this new school year, after the year that we had last year, we did some new things that have really helped us in terms of buying ingredients and menuing items. One of the biggest change is that we had already planned on going to bid and leaving the co-op that we were in for previous years. And with that allowed us to be able to have multiple vendors this year, and we've been able to buy from them directly, whereas in previous years we were only able to buy from one distributor. So having multiple options of where to buy fruit from this year, we have like 2 main distributors, and then we also are able to buy directly from a few of our companies, such as like Tyson and Schwann's, that does like pizzas and stuff. So having the opportunity to be able to kind of buy from multiple purveyors and different channels has really helped with if somebody has something that's not available or shorts us, we're able to then go to the different vendor and buy for them, so that we have a lot more choices. That has been really like a saving grace this year. Another outlet that we've been using is buying from local vendors, local farmers, and local producers. That has really also helped us as well. As mentioned in the previous presentation, there's less competition with these local businesses to sell to us. So it's been a great partnership being able to buy through them, and also being able to, of course, support like the local economy through that as well. And we've also, again, we have been increasing the number of scratch made items ever since last year, and we are continuing to do so this year. Cooking from scratch has really allowed us to have less of an interruption to our menu. We're still able to provide like hot meals. And I think that is in part that we are able to buy food and make it from scratch versus kind of fighting with other districts and other businesses to get more of like the prepackaged items that everyone is fighting for. Next slide. So our current operation looks like this. We have a central kitchen that sends out food to all of our sites. We have divided our sites into bulk sites, which means that they get the hot option kind of like sent in bulk, and they prepare it themselves at their school site. And we have the pre-packed schools where Central Kitchen prepares the full meal for them and sends it out prepackaged. And how we went into this year to kind of figure out what site would be bulk, what site would be pre-packed, was just, based on like the kitchen space, if they had the kitchen space and equipment to be able to cook the meals from scratch on site, as well as how many staff was able to be on site. Right now, all of our sites are preparing the cold options, which are like sandwiches, salads, like meal packs, like a hummus meal pack or like a yogurt meal pack. They're preparing all that on site. And again, we're doing a lot of like scratch cooking. We've been doing like a lot of chilies, a lot of soups, a lot of stews, rice-based dishes. So that has been, again, ramping up through this year. As Erin mentioned before about our partnership with Amazon, we are continuing home delivery, and our menu for home delivery looks a little different because we deliver a week's worth of meals to our students. So our central kitchen puts together a meal box with 7 days worth of meal for our students, and Amazon comes by our central kitchen, picks it up, and delivers it to students. Most of these are cold items to make like sandwiches and salads. But last year, when we had our meal sites and Amazon was doing the home delivery, we were able to add like our prepackaged, what we called take and bakes of items that like the central kitchen was making from scratch and using the prepack machine to prepackage it so that the students were able to enjoy a hot lunch at home. So reheating and heating it up and enjoying it at home. Again, we're partnering up with the local farms and vendors. Specifically, we started a program called Taste of SPS, which was kind of piggybacking off of our state's Taste Washington Day in October. Last year during the pandemic, we did a smoked salmon chowder bread bowl for Taste Washington Day, and it was such a big hit that I continued every month making like a scratch made item that was served hot, kind of like as if you would order like a meal to go from a restaurant. It was really successful, so I wanted to continue it on this year, but I also wanted to implement our local farms and our local vendors. So Taste of SPS was born, and every month we feature these local scratch made dishes with obvious local ingredients, and we feature them in 10 to 12 schools every month. So by the end of the school year, all schools would have participated in the Taste of SPS. And this also was because usually the local farmers don't have the capacity to give us, I guess I should mention that we are putting out about almost 30,000 meals a day, between 25 to 30,000 lunches a day. So as you can imagine, for local farms, it's a little bit harder to have that big a volume that we need to serve all of our meals. So that's why we broke it down to about 10 and 12 schools per month. Yeah, and then again, we're doing our fresh fruit and vegetable program, implementing a lot of fresh and seasonal ingredients in that as well in our menu. And again, our menu is a little bit limited than what it would be in a regular school year. Regularly, we would have at least 2 hot meal options and then 2 cold options. Right now, we have the 2 cold items, which again are like sandwiches, salads, and lunch packs, and then we have a hot meal option. And again, as Erin mentioned, we're continuing our communications partnership, reaching out to communities, reaching out to school groups, even to students, and having a really solid relationship with our communications department has really helped pass down important information. I think that sending information to families and students about the current situation of like supply chain just nationally has really helped them to like understand and be patient and supportive of the work that we're trying to do. I think that when you kind of let people in, explain to them, let them know what's going on, there's a little bit more patience and understanding for the current situation. So we've been really partnering up with our communications department and making sure that before, you know, a problem happens or before we have to change the menu or, you know, any changes or anything that happens last minute that's out of our control, we really want to get that communications out to the families so that they know before. I feel like once they know before and understand, it's a better situation moving forward when these things happen. Other slide. So the results of all these things that we've been implementing have been that we, number one, have not had a food shortage this year. We've been short of food from our distributors and stuff, but we have really been innovative and creative in trying to put out the food that's available, coming up with new recipes, working with our vendors to see what they have available, and really being flexible to put out the food that is available. So we haven't had any food shortage. Our participation has actually been increasing. So normally in a normal school year before last year, our lunch service was about 15, maybe 20,000 a day. And again, I mentioned that now we're getting very close to 30,000. So everything that we've been doing obviously has been working. Our participation is increasing even at this time. We've been having better community engagement and education. Again, that like partnership with the community, with the student community, the family, and just the community around the schools is really important. I think it really builds trust and support, and that's super important to have a successful program. You really need the students and their families are our clients, so we need their support. So that partnership is very important. And when they feel like they're being heard, they feel better, they trust us, and support us a lot more. Additional district support. So I feel like this past year, especially, we've stuck to our guns with providing more scratch-made items, providing more culturally relevant food. And with the success of increased participation, we have been able to really prove to the district that food service is extremely important, and all our mission of continuing to provide culturally relevant, fresh, scratch-made food is really going to make a difference and really going to make our department be successful, and it really has. And it's just overall increased customer satisfaction as well as our staff morale. Our staff is super excited to put out these new delicious foods. We've put out amazing culturally relevant foods. We have a chicken banh mi that we have in the menu. We do an Ethiopian lentil stew called Mr. Wat with injera bread. We have a really big population of Ethiopian and Eritrean students, so it was really great to highlight that for the first time, the foods from where they're from for the first time. We've done a tikka masala, we've done a arroz con pollo, a lot of different dishes. So our staff get really excited about being able to cook these new scratch made items and excited to like sell it to the students and kind of see their reactions of like enjoying it. So it's really increased morale for our staff. Alrighty, next slide. So yeah, I would recommend, tips for making sure that, we continue to have a successful meal program and menu through these times that we're having is to get more creative with scratch made items. I think, again, that a lot of districts and just businesses are really fighting for, those prepackaged items, those child nutrition specific items. So if you can get creative and create recipes that fall into the meal pattern and the compliance, and are able to get those ingredients, because again, not everybody is fighting for it, that'll really be super successful. And you'll probably have a delicious scratch made meal, which for me as a chef is always much better. Incorporating culturally relevant food is a big one. Our district is very diverse. We have a very diverse student body. So as soon as we started incorporating more dishes from these different cultures, we really saw an increase in participation, a lot more excitement, not only for the kids and the families of, where those foods are from, obviously seeing foods that you are familiar with, food that you eat at home makes you feel a lot better, makes you feel safe, secure, and comfortable, and you enjoy that meal. But also, it's a really great opportunity. We are in an education setting. I think it's a great opportunity to introduce everyone to different cultures. It's food through food. Food is the best way that, in my opinion, that you can introduce kids to different cultures. So incorporating more culturally relevant foods is great. And I would suggest for those wanting to incorporate more culturally diverse foods into their menu, the first step that you should really do is get out there and talk to your students, talk to the family, reach out to community groups, and have a conversation with them. Have them tell you, what are dishes that they enjoy from their culture, like what do they want, and start from there, because that's where you'll get like really like great feedback and great ideas. And again, I always strive to talk to these community groups and families and really get like authentic recipe ideas, because again, I don't want to put something on the menu that is not authentic and respectful to that culture. Again, having multiple vendors has been a saving grace this year. So if you are able to do that, that is really going to help you out at this time, so that you're not just depending on one distributor. And partnering up with local farms and local vendors, they're on a smaller scale, and they're supporting you. And again, you are supporting like the local economy and their local business. I think it's a win-win for everybody. All right, next slide. Awesome. So I'll hand it over to Aaron if he wants to add any last words, but if not, we'll take some questions.
Hey, thanks, Amy. I think you pretty much said everything. Yeah, we just really, our mission is just making sure we stay in tune with the community and all the different cultures, and making sure that we stay respectful to them and let them know that their voices are heard, and we do our best to be as authentic as possible, but as well as educating other families in the districts about these dishes and where they come from. And I don't see any questions in the box. I don't see any questions, so I'd just like to thank everyone for your time, and I will pass it back to Janae.
So the pre-recorded version has ended. I just want to thank everyone for joining today. I just want to say a few announcements. So again, this was a playback recording of a previous webinar. So if you have any follow-up questions, please send those to the help desk at icn.org, and we will try to get to your questions and provide feedback on that. And also, we will send out their certificate and the evaluation survey and the recording link. When we send everything out to you, that will take 24 hours at the end of the webinar here today. And again, thank you so much for tuning in.